Good morning, this is Preeti, and today we are going to discuss about the most celebrated poet of Elizabethan age, that is Edmund Spenser. For the sake of convenience, I have divided this video into three parts. In the first part, we will discuss about the life of Edmund Spenser. In the second part, we will discuss about the influences, and in the third part, we will discuss about the major work which we should keep in mind while talking about Edmund Spenser. So let's start. Edmund Spenser was born in 1562 and he died in 1599. His father was a weaver who worked for Merchant Taylors Company. He studied in Merchant Taylors School when he was a student. At the age of 16, he went to Pembroke College in Cambridge, where he was a poor scholar or sizar. This means he had to do menial or odd jobs in return for education. At Cambridge, he met Gabriel Harvey, who was witty, ambitious, and pedantic, and his best friend. During Cambridge, he was acquainted with wide knowledge of Latin, Greek, and other classical literatures. Alongside poetry, he also pursued a career in politics, and first worked as secretary for the Bishop of Rochester and then for the Earl of Leicester. They both introduced him to other poets and artists of Elizabethan court. In 1580, he became the secretary to the Lord Deputy of Ireland. He was an Anglican and a devotee to Protestant Queen Elizabeth. He admired Elizabeth so much that just because she followed Protestantism, he also started following Protestantism. He saw Catholic Church full of corruption and said it is not only a wrong religion but also an anti-religion. In 1581, he made Ireland his home. Before Ireland, he was in London, and in 1581 he moved to Ireland and built his own castle or estate known as Kilcolman, and he stayed there from 1581 to 1599. He married Elizabeth Boyle in 1594, and in 1597 a major incident happened that his house was attacked and burned during an Irish rebellion. Just because he was the Lord Deputy of Ireland, people burnt his house. There were several works in his house which were also burnt. His children also died in the house which was put on fire. He finally then fled to London. He was financially ruined at that time, and he remained in London until his death, and he died finally at the age of 46. According to Ben Jonson, now this is important, Ben Jonson said that he died for the want of bread. Another statement which he had made on Spenser is that he write no language. He write no language. In that time, the spelling of write used to be WRIT, unlike now, which is WRITE. So Ben Jonson said he write no language. WRIT. He write no language. And Spenser was buried in Westminster Abbey near Chaucer's grave. Now, this was about the life which we should know about the Spenser. Now, let's move to the next section, which is influences. So, throughout his life, he had three major influences. So, let's talk about them. Influences in Cambridge. In Cambridge, he acquainted himself with classics, Italian, and French work. As we all know that he was influenced by Homer, Virgil, and Aristotle, and his writing style and his work also show the traces of his influences which he had from these poets. Next is the time he spent in London. In London, he was a member of the Court of London, and how court life has influenced his thoughts is completely evident in his work. Next is the time he spent in Ireland. In Ireland, he acquainted himself with old Celtic poetry, Irish mythologies, and the legends that were popular in the island. We find references of old Celtic poetry in his work also. He was a friend and admirer of Philip Sidney. He was extremely influenced by Roman poets such as Ovid, whom he has studied during his schooling also. And another thing which we should keep in mind is that language of his poetry is purposely archaic. Archaic means that using old words, old dictionary. He did this because he wanted to show a connection to the Middle Ages, particularly with Chaucer. He admired Chaucer very much. In fact, Chaucer was his favorite poet. Now, another thing is that he introduced a distinct verse form which is known as Spenserian stanza. What is Spenserian stanza? Spenserian stanza is basically a 9-line stanza in which 8 lines are in iambic pentameter and the last line is in iambic hexameter, which is also known as single alexandrine. And the rhyme scheme is AB AB BC BC C. AB AB BC BC C. Now, another thing that we should keep in mind is that he is also known as Poet's Poet, and who has called him Poet's Poet is Charles Lamb. Charles Lamb has called him Poet's Poet. He was admired by various other writers such as Milton, Alexander Pope, and his contemporary also Walter Raleigh. Sir Walter Raleigh admired him so much that he has wrote a commentary poem to his most celebrated poem, which we all know it is Fairy Queen. And in that commentary, he has claimed, Sir Walter Raleigh has claimed, that he admire and value Spencer work so much that he doesn't think that there is someone superior than Spencer in the entire English literature. He used to admire him to such an extent. And Milton also in his Areopagitica has mentioned about Spencer and said that Spencer is our sage and serious poet whom I dare be known to think a better teacher than Scotus or Aquinas. I repeat, Spencer is our sage and serious poet whom I dare be known to think a better teacher than Scotus or Aquinas. This means he loves Spencer so much that he is a sage and serious poet and a better teacher, according to Milton, than Scotus and Aquinas. And Alexander Pope has also compared Spencer to a mistress and said that Spencer is a mistress whose faults we see but love her with them all. I repeat, Spencer is a mistress whose faults we see but love her with them all. With this, I complete my second section, that was influences. So now let's move forward to the third section, which is works. So the first major work is Shepherd's Calendar. This is his first major poetic work and was published in 1579. It is linked with and is inspired from Virgil's first work, Eclogues, and it is a series of pastorals which he started to write in the beginning of his career. He has used archaic spellings in order to suggest a connection to medieval literature and to Chaucer in particular, as I told you earlier that Chaucer was his favorite poet. The poem introduces Colin Clout, a shepherd, and the Colin Clout represents Chaucer. Poem consists of 12 eclogues. Each eclogue is named after a different month, which represents the turning of seasons. This work was dedicated to Philip Sidney. It also has a character Eliza, representing Queen Elizabeth, and we find Eliza sitting with 12 pastorals. The term sarcasm is also found for the first time in this work only. 12 eclogues deal with themes such as abuses of Catholic Church, Colin's shattered love for Rosalind, and it also praises Elizabeth and shows rustic shepherd's life. Now you must be wondering, what is eclogue? So I must tell you here that eclogue is a short pastoral poem that is in the form of dialogues. Although all 12 eclogues or poem are connected, but each poem can stand on its own in a complete sense. The opening line of each eclogue represents characteristics of a month or a season. For example, January Pastoral tells us about the unhappy love of Colin for Rosalind. That is the one-sided love which Colin has for Rosalind. Springtime Eclogue of April, and it shows songs in praise of Elizabeth. In May, rival pastors of Reformation and their sermons with animal fable. In summer, discourse on Puritan theology is told, and in October, trials and disappointments of a poet and how it ends with comparing life with other seasons is shown. In June and December, Colin Clout appears. So this was about Shepherd's Calendar, which we must remember. Now let's move forward to the most prominent work of Spenser, which is Fairy Queen. Fairy Queen is an allegorical tale, and it is written to teach the readers how to live by the six virtues which he has explained in his poem with the help of six knights who are depicting the virtues in each book. Actually, there are six books, and in each book there is a knight who represent virtues. Knight fights the sin and embraces the virtue. And Fairy Queen is one of the longest poem in English language, and it is written in Spenserian stanza. uh, Spenser wanted to write 24 books but was able to complete only 6 books and a fragment from 7th book. His major idea was to publish 12 books based on each knight who were epitome of private virtues, and 12 on King Arthur who will display 12 public virtues. So 12 private and 12 public. But in reality, what he was able to complete was 6 books and a fragment from 7th books. Now in first book there is a Red Cross knight who is depicting the virtue of holiness. In second book there is Sir Gayan who is depicting the virtue of temperance. In third book, Britomart, she is a female knight Britomart in third book. She is depicting the virtue of chastity or purity. In fourth book, Triamon and Camballo, who are depicting the virtue of friendship. In fifth book, we have Artegall, who is depicting the virtue of justice. In sixth book, we have Calidore, who is depicting the virtue of courtesy. So these are the 6 books which are there in Fairy Queen. Now, this poem is dedicated to Elizabeth I, who is represented as Fairy Queen by Gloriana and Belphoebe. Gloriana means Queen of Glory. Elizabeth I was so much impressed by this work that Spenser was granted pension for his entire life, that is $50 a year. Although there is no evidence that Elizabeth has read this poem or not, but she has granted him pension, that is $50 a year. There is a letter written by Spenser to Sir Walter Raleigh in which Spenser described the allegorical virtues through Arthurian knights in the mystical fairyland. He talks about the basic purpose of writing this book. He wanted to depict the virtues through Arthurian knights. It acted as the preface, and the name of the letter is A Letter of the Authors. A Letter of the Authors, in which he has said that the entire epic poem is cloudily enwrapped in allegorical devices, and the aim of publishing Fairy Queen was to fashion a gentleman or noble person in virtuous and gentle discipline. The entire epic poem is cloudily enwrapped in allegorical devices, and the aim of publishing Fairy Queen was to fashion a gentleman or noble person in virtuous and gentle discipline. This is said by Spenser in his letter, A Letter of the Authors. This poem Fairy Queen is modeled on Ariosto Orlando Furioso. Spenser has named Aristotle as the source of these virtues. Now there is a character who is King Arthur, who appears in all the books and is a kind of hero who helped knights. Now let's talk in detail about the first book. The first book is dedicated to virtue of holiness, as we have discussed it earlier, and it follows the adventure of Red Cross Knight who represents holiness. Red Cross Knights encounters Duessa, who is the evil character, Archimago, who is also evil character, and the House of Pride. It is a place and it is evil place. So what happens is that Red Cross Knight encounters three people, and including one place. The one is Duessa, second is Archimago, and the third is a place which is House of Pride. Duessa leads him to the House of Pride, where he meets Lucifera, and Lucifera is female representative of Saturn. Lucifera has her own court, and that court has many sins, for example idleness, lechery, etc. Envy also is there, and many more. Duesa's importance lies in her ability of deceiving many of heroes who comes across her path. Knight ignorance led him to consummate with Duesa, leaving him too weak to fight with giant monster Ogoglio. Una and Prince Arthur came to rescue Knight. Una reveals Duesa's true forms and redeems the Red Cross Knight by taking him to the House of Holiness, and there he battled with monster Despair. His strength is finally regained and he defeats the giant monster that helps Una's parents set free from imprisonment done by dragon. In the end, Una and Red Cross Knight marry and Una's parents gave their entire property to Red Cross. So this is our first book summary, a short summary of the first book. Now let's move forward to the second book. In the second book, Sir Gayan represents temperance and learns both moderation and self-control in the face of anger, greed. Whenever he faces these evil virtues, he moderates himself. So this book shows the virtue of temperance. It tells us that how we can moderate our behavior, as Sir Gayan has done in this book. His major heroic event was destroying the Bower of Bliss and controlled by Akrasia. Akrasia was controlling the Bower of Bliss. He destroyed both Bower of Bliss and Akrasia. These two evil things were destroyed by Sir Gayan. Akrasia lures man to Bower of Bliss with her sexual appeal and transforms them into beasts with her magical powers. And Gayan finally destroys her. In the third book, Lady Knight Britomart represents chastity and is on her quest to find her beloved Artegall. Book 3, unlike book 1 and 2, is a collection of many love stories. Not only one stories, but there are many love stories in this book 3. Britomart's chastity is bound up with the power of love. She remains chaste throughout her adventure. Britomart sees Artegall in a magical mirror and immediately fell in love with him. Evil character here is Seductress Malcastra, who is the representation of unchaste love. Britomart fights with her and appears victorious. So in this book 3, there is a Lady Knight Britomart who represents the virtue of chastity or pure love. In book 4, virtue of true friendship is depicted through Britomart and Amoretta. The false destructive friendship is depicted through Blandomar and Peridel, ruled by jealousy and exploitation. So true friendship is represented by Britomart and Amoretta, and friendship involving jealousy and exploitation is represented by Blandomar and Peridel. In book 5, the character Artegall, who is we discussed in book 3, who is a lover of Britomart, appears as the hero of book 5. Artegall adventures begin after he receives his quest from Fairy Queen. Artegall kills Duesa and rescues Arena from the monster Grand Toroto. He drives away distraction and envy. In the book 1, Duesa was not killed, she was defeated. But in book 5, Artegall, who is the lover of Britomart, comes and kills Duesa and appears victorious. This was book 5, and in book 6, Calidor depicts courtesy, virtue of courtesy. His adventure begins when he meets Knight Calepine and Lady Serena. They both were bitten and poisoned by Blatant Beast. Calidor binds the mouth of Blatant Beast and is victorious over him, but is not able to kill him. So this was all which we should remember while studying about Fairy Queen. Now let's move forward to the other works of Edmund Spenser. The next work is Complaints. Complaints is basically a poetry collection which was published in 1591. It expresses complaints in mournful and mocking manner. There are many poems in this poetry collection, but the 5 important poems which we must remember are Ruins of Time, Peers of Muses, Mother Herbert's Tale, Vision of the World Vanity, and the last one is The Faith of the Butterfly. I repeat, Ruins of Time, Peers of Muses, Mother Herbert's Tale, Vision of the World Vanity, and Faith of the Butterfly. Next work is Amorety. Amorety means little love, and it is also a poem collection by Edmund Spenser. It was written by Edmund Spenser to his beloved Elizabeth Boyle. In structure, it is blended in Shakespearean and Petrarchal sonnets. The first part of sonnet is octave, and the second part of sonnet is sestave. There are 89 sonnets in all in this Amorety, and Spenser wanted to immortalize his beloved, who was soon to be his bride, and her name is Elizabeth Boyle. The next important work by Spenser is Epithalamion. The word epithalamion was coined by Spenser himself, and it means a wedding song. In this, there are 365 lines which depicts 365 days in a year, and 24 stanzas which depicts 24 hours of a day. This epithalamion is modeled on Catullus' work, who is a Roman poet and is also influenced by Chaucer's Parliament of Fowls. It is basically a ode written to Elizabeth Boyle on their wedding day and was published as a volume, Amorety and Epithalamion. The next work is Prothalamion. In Prothalamion, the twin marriage of daughter of Rochester is celebrated, and it is the Prothalamion. The word Prothalamion was also coined by Edmund Spenser, and it also means marriage songs. In Prothalamion, there is a line, "Sweet themes run softly till I end my song." This line is repeated in almost every stanza in this poem, and this is also used by T.S. Eliot in his Wasteland. Sweet themes run softly till I end my songs. The next work of Edmund Spenser is Astrophel. In Astrophel, there are 39 stanzas. 33 stanzas are of elegy. 3 stanzas describe the grief of Astrophel's fellow shepherds, and 3 prefatory stanzas are there. Now, as I've said, that 33 stanzas are of elegy. So, elegy of whom? So, it is a pastoral elegy written on the death of Philip Sidney, and it is dedicated to Countess of Essex. It also contains Doleful Lay of Florinda, which is written by Countess of Pembroke. Another work of Edmund Spenser is Colin Cloud Come Home Again. It is a pastoral allegorical poem. In this, Spenser is talking about his journey to London. He has written this when he returned to England after his journey to London. He has dedicated this poem to Sir Walter Raleigh because Walter visited him before he went to London, and Walter convinced him to go to London. It is a fine example of pastoral eclogue. Now let's move forward to the final work which we will study in this video of Edmund Spenser, and that is View of the State of Ireland. In this, he has shown the evils which were prominent in Irish people, and he has categorized them into 3 categories, and these are evils related to laws, evils related to customs, and evils related to religion. So we discussed about the main works of Edmund Spenser. Let's take a look at them. The first we discussed was Shepherd's Calendar. Second was Fairy Queen. Third was Complaints, which is a poetry collection. Fourth was Amorety, which is also a poetry collection. Fifth was Epithalamion. Sixth was Prothalamion, and these both words, Epithalamion and Prothalamion, were coined by Spenser himself, and they mean marriage song. Seventh work was Astrophel, which is a pastoral elegy written on the death of Philip Sidney, and it is and the eighth work is Colin Cloud Come Home Again, which is a pastoral allegorical poem. And the final work which we discussed is View of the State of Ireland, in which he has depicted the evils which were prominent in Irish people. Thank you.